right.
Next year, but just I want to get your thoughts on
Yeah, I think if you look at what's going on
at the same time,
the college football playoff, the Big Ten, as well as other conferences, have some decisions.
I have a lot to say, so a lot of experience.
What do we need to do to put us in the best position?
You guys hear? He's great. Phenomenal.
Now they can't hear.
Nobody says nobody. We're all on the same
What
page.
could we do to put us in the best position to get as many teams into the playoffs as possible?
In the room.
And right now, the way our setup is, I don't know if that's in the Big Ten's best interest. Historically, our division, when you talk about the Big Ten championship game, I don't think.
Yeah, it'll be just certain things, certain moves I see him use. I feel like, I like that.
As well as you look at this season, preseason rankings and postseason rankings, it probably makes the most sense to get this division. You're going to lose some things, obviously, in doing it, but I think you're going to gain more than you lose.
James, Big Ten Saturday night, you guys got to play in the first game. What's the whole Big Ten Saturday night do you think add to the conference? And how much more special, I guess, is an opener knowing that it's kind of a debut game and openers are always special?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I probably shouldn't say this, but I don't really focus on things like that. Like, I'm just worried about our team playing well and beating a really good West Virginia team at home. I think it's great that the conference is doing things to put our programs, specifically Penn State, on these types of platforms so a lot of people can see what Big Ten football is all about. But I don't spend a whole lot of time other than that, just recognizing I think the Big Ten has made some strategic moves to put our programs in the best position to be seen. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't describe it the way you do. Like the way you do, I say protective rival. We were ever a protective rival. We were just in the same side of divisions. Again, I think, like I said, I think there's things that you're going to lose. You're going to lose some games. You're going to lose some games that people are used to seeing on a yearly basis. But once again, I do think the Big Ten has made some decisions from a strategy perspective to give us the best chance to get 6 teams into the playoffs. I think literally everything we talk about as a Big Ten needs to be based on how do we get the most teams into the playoffs. So you need to be thinking about 6, and all of your strategy needs to be based off of that. And then if you end up with 5 teams in or whatever it is, that's fine, but you need to be strategically making decisions to get as many Big Ten teams in the playoffs as possible. Yeah, he's big, fast, powerful, strong, explosive, well coached, really good football player. Yeah, so as you know, we were able to go into the transfer portal a little bit, get some experienced punters and kickers to compete. It felt like we got 3 long snappers, and we didn't need to do that. There was competition there, but we needed competition at punter and kicker. And not that we didn't think that our current guys could do it, but I want them competing just like every other position, and we didn't really have competition the way it was, the way it was sitting. So those guys have been competing all summer. Obviously, we haven't had a chance to evaluate them really well. They do kind of give me reports on what they think, the specialists, how they would rank each other. But there's a big difference between punting at the Lash practice facility compared to in Beaver Stadium, on national television. Same thing with field goals. Not just kicking field goals on a tee, but the snap, the hold, the kick, the protection, the pressure, the environment. So it'll take some time. The good thing is, there's some things that other positions maybe factor into your decision-making process, but like field goals, it's pretty clear. The 2 guys or the 3 guys that are competing for the job, they're going to kick the same exact kicks in practice, and whoever has the better percentage, that is on air, that is in live situations, that's all of it. It's going to be a pretty good indicator for you. Same thing with punting. Where some of the other positions, there's some other, maybe a little bit more nuance that goes into the decision-making process.
Only for Sean, can you speak to not only his development as a player on the field, but also as a leader on the field?
Yeah, a young man that obviously, had a lot of opportunities this offseason and felt like it was in his and his family's best interest to come back to school. Got one of the highest GPAs on our team. Came from a really good high school program in Gonzaga High School in Washington, D.C., which I also think helps. Guys that come from really good programs know how to work. They understand what it takes at our level. So he's matured, obviously, into a player that everybody's talking about. He also has the maturity and the intellect and the work ethic to demand the respect of all the guys on the team and in the room. But I think the other thing that I'm excited about is, we have a responsibility at Penn State to continue to help Olu develop, not only to help our team, but also to help himself. And he is bigger than he was last year, but not only is he bigger, all of his testing numbers have dramatically improved. His bench press, his 40, his vertical jump, his pro agility, all of them while gaining 20 pounds. So I think he's put himself in the best position to play well this year, and then also be able to take those skills and translate them at a place like Indianapolis, maybe the Combine, and show the type of athlete he also is.
Immediately, so I feel like that's just our coaching about the love we have for each other, the brotherhood we built. That really hasn't been there. I'm excited for what we're building in our team.
What makes that statement? What makes it to this state in terms of recruiting there? Have you seen the talent within the state of Wisconsin as well?
Yeah, so we were fortunate to get a young man by the name of Jerry Cross out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And Jerry's done a phenomenal job. He's well liked on our team. He's worked extremely hard. And I think it's like anything else, right? Once you get one guy from an area and they come and they enjoy it and they have fun, then that word gets back. But Jerry kind of has gotten this thing started for us. The guy that we offered and weren't really sure, to be honest with you, how receptive he would be. And he called to commit, and we talked him out of it, for a couple of weeks to make sure this is what he really wanted to do. He's got a great family. His mom and his grandparents, who've all raised him, done a phenomenal job. But I think it's not a whole lot more than that. We were able to get one kid, and that kid has enjoyed his experience so far. And I think he has played a role in maybe some other guys being interested in this as a possible opportunity.
What's been the value of Ty Howell's?
Yeah, I think Ty has done a really good job in a short period of time at Penn State. Is really establishing himself as one of our coaches that has phenomenal relationships with his current players. Is one of 10 lettermen that we have on our staff, which is something I think is really valuable. But he's also a guy that I think, if you are ranking coaches in the Big Ten, is one of our better recruiters. And it's interesting, I think sometimes when people think about recruiters, they think of really extroverted, charismatic guys, and Tyler is all substance. His dad was a high school football coach, so I think he's got a different perspective on it as well. And then also Penn State means a ton to him as a letterman. So he's come in and continued to build our tight end room into one of the better tight end rooms in the country, but also recruiting in general.
James, talking about another letterman, how would you say Dion progressed in his first spring camp and then in the months ahead as a defensive line coach, position coach? And how much does it add to you as a coach, being that this was a guy that was one of your players at one point and now he's a very important member of your coaching staff? So
yeah, Dion's doing well. I am really proud of Dion. I'm gonna be honest with you. We interviewed him, and I didn't think I was gonna hire him. I think a lot of times in coaching, you view guys. He was a player for me. He was a GA for me, and sometimes coaches feel like players have to leave and then come back. But Dion just kept growing. As a coach, as a recruiter. When it comes to scheme and philosophy, when it comes to technology, all of it. He was just growing and growing. He had really earned a lot of respect from the people in the building. Manny Diaz was a big proponent of his as well. And we interviewed him, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it was probably one of those interviews where you interview somebody to basically cover your bases. And we interviewed him and a bunch of established college coaches. We interviewed him and a bunch of established NFL coaches, and he blew them all away. He dominated the interview from that point on. I know specifically myself, I started looking at Dion as a legitimate candidate for this position. From that point, had some really honest conversations with him about what my expectations were. And he continued to check the boxes. And after doing the interview process and realizing that we had the best candidate already in our building that understood the culture, that had the institutional knowledge, that had the community knowledge, had strong recruiting ties, it just made so much sense. And it's funny, I think it was on the treadmill one day walking, and Dion comes in, and you guys remember, he cut his hair. And I'm like, why'd you cut your hair? And he goes, because I wanted you to know how serious I was about the job. And I'm like, just so you know, I would have hired you anyway. And he's like, oh, you should have told me sooner, But he's doing great. I'm really proud of him. Our players absolutely love him. That was a big factor in hiring him. Our players were behind him 1,000%. The big question obviously was recruiting. Had not done it before, but so far so good. He's been attacking that and building strong relationships and selling why Penn State's been so impactful in his life that I think obviously hits home with a lot of recruits.
James, what stood out to you about Deason's development, growth, both on the field over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I'm proud. I sit here as a proud father, with these guys, and I look at Adisa Isaac and what he's been able to do out of Canarsie High School in Brooklyn, New York, who did a great job with him. That program did a great job with him, and Adisa showed up, and he's just thrived. He's got an unbelievable mom and siblings that obviously mean a ton to him. I think that's been a big part of his development and maturity as well, because there's been more on his plate, probably from an earlier age than most guys. He's killing it in school and on schedule and ready to graduate. He's got bigger and stronger. I think it's really important for him and for us that he plays over 250 pounds this year. I think our D-line's done a really good job this off-season of getting bigger so we can be more physical throughout the entire season. It's a physical, demanding season, and it wears on you. So being able to start at a really good point, being able to sustain it. But I think he's going to have a big year. I think I think we got a defensive end room that I'm excited about, and we have the depth and talent to push each other and challenge each other, and to continue to put people out there that are going to be able to not only put pressure on the passer, but also have the size to defend the run too. Does he look like David Jones' like little brother?
A little bit.
Right? It's a compliment. Yeah.
Is it?
Is it? Picture, so you guys
Love
can
it.
Both these programs consider. Say it one more time, I apologize.
Your thoughts on getting Michigan home, given the fact that both of these teams are serious contenders for the Big Ten title?
Yeah, I think obviously, when you talk about college football, home field advantage is a factor, especially when you're talking about in the Big Ten, when Michigan's got 110,000 and we got 107,000. It is a factor. There's no doubt about it, and especially when you're playing a really good team like Michigan. Our crowd, our environment is going to have to be impactful in the game. But hopefully between how we play and our scheme and our players combined with our environment gives us the best chance to be successful.
James, the comments you made to Adam Brenneman about NIL earlier this month, and then the tweets that you made about it and your staff, I'm wondering about the timing of that. Was there something that kind of clicked that you felt the message needed to be delivered that maybe wasn't being delivered?
Yeah, sometimes you guys ask me really good questions that I'd like to answer, but it may not always be appropriate to answer in this setting or in our program's best interest. But what I would say to you is Pat has come in here and made a significant impact and emphasized this more to what we're competing against, not only within the conference, but also on a national level. And then I just felt like, although we had made progress, it had kind of leveled back off again, and we needed to take that next step at a time where the collectives were merging, which was also an important point for us as well. But while that was happening, we weren't making the progress that we needed to make. And I think the combination of all those things, Pat's leadership, the merging, and then obviously trying to emphasize it where we could as a program and where I could as a program, I think has helped maybe speed up that maturation process in this specific area.
When you mention progress with that, I mean, are you benchmarking dollar figures, or are you trying to compare? The challenging thing with it is the secrecy behind it, right? Like, we don't know what guys are making, we don't know what their students have because of the competitive part. So I guess what things are you looking to kind of compare?
Yeah, you try to benchmark as much as you can with things that have been said publicly. You're using that. The other thing you're using is when you're talking to your current players and they have good friends at other programs. That's a way to gain some information. When you hire new staff, one of the best things I think we do is we do a new staff questionnaire when I hire people after they've been on campus for about a month. I interview them about a ton of subjects. They have to fill out this paperwork. So you're able to gain information like that from people you hire, come from other programs, and getting specific information. You have some people that you may compete with. More times not, you find programs that you're not really competing with, that you have very significant relationships with on their staff, and you can ask them directly what exactly is happening. And then obviously, you hear a lot in recruiting. Obviously, to your point, a lot of these things are verbal, but you can learn a lot through talking to a lot of different resources, whether it's high school coaches or trainers or parents or prospects as well, to get a pretty good understanding of what is happening nationally. And then, as you guys know too, some of our current players were offered opportunities, and I say you know this because it's happening all over college football, where our players after the season were contacted, from other programs to transfer, and were offered deals. So there's a lot of ways to get that information.
Nervous for a second?
Yeah, I think, obviously before the transfer portal opened back up, everybody in the country was concerned what that was going to look like. But we had a ton of conversations with our players. I think, although we've had some challenges in the NIL space, I do think there's a ton of respect from our players and how we have handled things. And I think there's been some examples of maybe places that were very aggressive early on, which is good, but also if not handled well, it can cause you some real issues in your locker room too.
One of your former players has been used a lot recently, I think, Saquon Barkley. I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on his contract situation and negotiations, but I'm more so wondering why you think there's such a discrepancy for how high running backs are valued in college football, especially at programs like yours where some of the running backs have played, versus their decreasing value at the NFL.
Yeah, I talked to Saquon probably 3 days ago. Had a really good conversation. Me and my wife had a really good conversation with Saquon this summer over break. A lengthy conversation, which to be honest with you, we've had a lot of conversations, but not a conversation like that in a long time, so that was really good. I want to be a resource for Saquon and his family, not just during his playing career, but really for the rest of his life. I'm a big fan of his and big supporter of his. All that other stuff with the NFL, I'm not going to worry about that or get into that. He was able to sign a pretty good one-year deal, and I think he's going to have a big year for the Giants, and I think he's going to continue to be one of their better leaders in the locker room and representatives in the community too.
What's like the NIL? What advantages does it have for elected association and how development those
Yeah, I think back to Audrey's point a little bit about best practice. So those collectives are all able to share information with each other as well, because that's one of the big challenges, right? You don't necessarily know exactly what everybody's doing. There's no website to go pull up to find the exact information. So being a part of a group like that, I think there's some advantage.
Hey, James.
What does he have to do?
So you're talking about our quarterback position and the competition that's going on?
I'm just talking about one of those guys.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Drew's a talented guy. He was ranked, based on who you talk to. Some people had him as a 5-star. Some people had him as #1 recruit in the country. 6'5", 242 pounds, can make a ton of throws. More athletic than people realize. He lives the position. Really works at it both in the classroom and on the football field. He's changed his body composition. Stronger, more athletic than he was, and he played in 10 games last year. But for me to sit here and talk about his ceiling when he hasn't started a game in college football is hard to say. I will tell you that probably the thing I was most impressed with last year was his poise when he did get in game. You saw him at the Purdue game that we opened the season, prime time, blackout, conference game, and he got in there and he just looked poised and confident. And all those other things you can develop and train, that's something that's hard to develop and train. You either have that or you don't, and he had it.
Hey, James. As NIL evolves, what do you think that next era could or should
If I knew he was going to ask a question about NIL, I would have.
As it evolves, what do you think that next era could or should look like as far as player compensation, control of your own roster? What do you think that next era might look like?
Yeah, I think everybody understands that college football has changed. And the college football that maybe we grew up with is gone and never coming back. And to be honest with you, I think in a lot of ways that is good. But what I also think this NIL has done, in my mind, has shown how complex these issues that the NCAA has been dealing with a long time and gets a lot of criticism based on the rules and enforcement. And sometimes it's fair, the criticism that they've got. But the issues are more complex than people realize. And how do you do all these things? How do you do all these things at the NCAA level and then really have the ability to enforce the rules you say that we're supposed to be living by? How much do you need states or federal government to get involved and help with these things? It went to the Supreme Court, and we saw how that went. I think it was 9-0. So, I'm still a big believer in the NCAA. I'm still a big believer in our model, but the model needs to change and the model needs to evolve. And the reality is, we need to get all these people in the room at the same time, because I think you're seeing a bunch of bills, you're seeing a bunch of good ideas, and I think all of them warrant consideration, and there may be a good idea in them. But the reality is, you're going to need to merge all the good ideas and find something that it's not going to be perfect for everybody, but it shouldn't be, right? It should be what's in the best interest of the student athletes, what's in the best interest of colleges and college athletics, and find something that everybody can be comfortable with and agree on. But the most important thing, we got to get a bunch of people in the room together and have those discussions with legal representation and all of it, so we're talking about things that are actually realistic and doable.
From your standpoint, and this era of player management, what is the most difficult thing or the biggest challenge